Today we're working on the hips. Typically, if we've got sticky, tight hips, we feel it down the chain, like in the knees or the feet, or up the chain in the low back. So if we clean this up and make the hip do what the hip needs to do, it's a lot easier for the rest of our body to stop volunteering to do those things poorly for our hips. So let's start standing, and we'll warm up with some hip cars, controlled articular rotations. I would love it if you could find yourself something to hang on to, like maybe a door jamb. You could put, like, this is the wall right here. Or a post if you have an open post in your house, or even a tall piece of furniture that is very sturdy and will not tip, so that you can kind of get a little bit of stability from it. What I often see when we are learning these hip cars, I'll do one real quick and dirty one with you, or for you, is a lot of compensation in other parts of the body. See how I'm leaning here? And it's hard to just keep the movement in the hips, which is number one goal here with any CARS routine, is to move solely through the joint that you're working, right? And that's it. So we're going to take some of the thinking away and the concentrating on a million different parts by hanging on to something that'll keep most of us pretty rigid and unable to help. Okay, let's start with our right leg. So stand with your left hip against or near something that you can hang on to with a little bit of sturdiness and you cannot lean forward and back from. And then go ahead and get some power through that left leg, driving into the floor, squeezing the butt, getting the hip extended fully, meaning that you're not here, but you're nice and strong here. And lift the right knee right up, floating it toward your face. When you can go no further without rounding your back to get any higher, stop. And then we're just gonna keep our belt buckle facing each other and peel the knee out, away, so the ankle stays right directly under it. From there, I got my hand here on my ribs to make sure I don't start jutting them forward. From there, go ahead and lift your ankle. Mine doesn't go far. If yours is doing that too, keep going keep moving into a position where your shin is parallel to the ground by dipping the knee and not hiking the hip. Keep this hip or this waist off of your, whatever you got there, your post. Once your shin is parallel to the ground, check it out, look down there. Then I'm gonna turn so you can see what I'm doing. Then I want you to kick straight back, firing the glute up, not extending through the spine. And then, last but not least, float that knee inward next to the standing knee. Maybe tap your toe down to get a quick before you head the other way. We're gonna cut that one out after this rep. And kick straight back with your knees side by side. Again, just the glutes working here. Then flare the shin out to the side, and then start to drag it up till the ankle is underneath the knee again. And your gate is open, and then close the gate, sink the heel down. That's one rep. We're gonna do 4 more for a total of 5. Ready, set, here we go. You help me keep track. I'm gonna tell you more about this stuff while we're doing these. So the hip CARS is a way for our body or our joint to communicate to our nervous system that we have this certain range of motion that we are using and we would like to keep it. In normal life, there's probably days where I don't get my knee and my hip in this joint, in this position. And if I don't do that for, more often than like one day every 15 to 30 days for several years, guess what happens? My body says, you're not using that, you don't get it. You're not strong enough there anymore, and they take it away. That nervous system is trying to keep us safe by not allowing us to get into positions where we'll be injured. The times that we go beyond that and experience injury, I've got 2 more. Like, say you sign up for the company or the fundraiser kickball game and you pull your hammy, run into first base, trying not to get out. That is a time where you won. You went beyond the point where your nervous system wanted you to go, but it didn't turn out well. So what we want to be able to do is go into those ranges that we need for the fun things and the daily things that we want to do, and then not get injured in that position. Or it doesn't even have to be an acute injury. It could be a chronic injury over time. If you're a jogger and you start to get an aching pain somewhere or a tightness that turns into an ache, a lot of times that stuff's ignorable for months, if not years, until, you know, at one point it's not any longer. And that's the kind of injuries that are most insidious, the ones that just creep up and get worse over time, and we don't really know why and what we did to cause it. Usually it's just a lack of mobility or full range in the joint. Okay, that was one side. Let's do the other leg. I'm gonna give you a different view. Bad contrast, but you'll have to deal. This is the studio setting. So get really strong on your right leg. The outside leg, your left leg, is now working here. Take a breath in, set your ribs down, keep some tension through your belly, and grasp onto that object with your right arm, and lift your left knee. Go as high as you can without rounding the low back. Sweep the knee out. Float the ankle up, knee down, kicking back into hip extension. We don't have much hip extension, so if you're like, my knee is basically right next to my other knee in this plane, that is correct. Tap down if you want, first and last chance. Kick back into extension, and then flare the shin out. Drag it around the block. Keep that belly button facing over the toe of the right foot. Close the gate, sink down. Okay, 4 more. What was I saying? It'll come back to me. This is rep 2. Oh, hip extension. Yeah, there's not a lot. So this is hip extension right here, where we're kicking the wall behind us without letting our back come with it. And it's not terribly a lot. I would recommend that you record yourself doing this work so that you can kind of see what you're doing and what your tendencies are, and kind of, it's much more easy to point out what joint is helping out when you watch the playback versus trying to feel it. The first stage of motor learning is not being able to feel what's going on and just trying to build a pattern, a motor pattern, a pathway of work. So at first, it's going to be way too much to sense when you're compensating. It's much easier to take a look at it later. So take a look at your hip extension when you're done, or you can go to the assessments page and run through the assessment. This is rep 4 for me. Run through the assessment of your hip extension so you have some really good hard raw data to look at and duplicate later. It's so valuable to see that change over time in your work, especially with this kind of work that is meant to be complementary to the fun stuff, right? The real deal work that you want to do. So if you're an athlete, or if you're having pain, or if you're getting to the point where this work is challenging, I would love for you to see results to kind of verify that this hard work is actually having an impact on the way you live the rest of your life. Woo, all right, 5 reps.